August 6, 2025. The calm skies over Samir, barely 15 miles from NATO's border, erupted in chaos. Russia unleashed 3 Iskander ballistic missiles, backed by a swarm of 53 kamikaze drones, a strike package valued at more than 120 million, targeting a single Ukrainian installation. If the assault had landed, over 4,000 troops, along with essential fuel reserves and command systems, could have been obliterated in moments. At first glance, it seemed impossible to stop. The drones skimmed the horizon at 100 meters above ground level, hugging treetops for cover, while the missiles plunged from the edge of space at Mach 6. But Ukraine had been waiting. Concealed radar systems tracked every trajectory, part of a battle plan refined over weeks. When impact seemed imminent, Ukraine's air defenses came alive. Bayonet drone interceptors sliced into the Russian swarm, destroying UAVs mid-flight. Patriot PAC-3 launchers fired from hidden positions, intercepting the missiles with blazing precision. Then came a daring counterstrike order from a Ukrainian commander, one that stunned even NATO officers. Could Ukraine truly have stopped this Russian onslaught? And what bold move shocked Western allies? You're about to learn. 6:15 a.m., August 6, 2025. The skies over Yavoriv, a western Ukrainian town less than 15 miles from Poland and NATO territory, rumbled with jet engines and distant blasts. Russia escalated its offensive, striking one of Ukraine's key military bases, a logistics and training hub where thousands of troops prepared for the summer counteroffensive. Within 3 minutes, Ukrainian radar detected 53 suicide drones launched from 3 axes: southern Belarus, Russia's Bryansk region, and Russian-held Donetsk. These UAVs raced in at roughly 120 meters per second, flying just 200-300 feet above ground to avoid detection. Simultaneously, from Kursk, Russian Iskander launchers fired 3 short-range ballistic missiles, each packing a warhead of half a ton of TNT, aimed squarely at Yavoriv base. Had they landed, devastation would have been catastrophic. But Ukraine was not the same country it had been months before. Within 90 seconds, next-generation bayonet interceptor drones took off in pairs, ramming into enemy UAVs and detonating shaped charges that ripped targets apart. In 5 minutes, the entire swarm of 53 drones was annihilated. None breached the shield. On the ground, Patriot PAC-3 systems thundered to life, hurling 3 interceptors skyward. All 3 Iskander missiles were destroyed at 25,000 feet, flaming debris scattering harmlessly over empty farmland. Deep in an underground command post, the Ukrainian general overseeing Western defenses declared over loudspeakers, "We are not just defending. We will turn every Russian strike into their grave." What Moscow intended as a crushing blow had instead proven Ukraine's transformation. If you were in command, would you order an immediate counteroffensive? Here's what Kiev decided. By August 7, 2025, at 2 a.m., Ukraine's high command issued orders that surprised even its own frontline units. Instead of a massive counterstrike, generals chose one of warfare's oldest and most disruptive methods: guerrilla tactics. The directive was blunt: fight without needing to win outright. Tiny teams of 3 to 5 soldiers infiltrated deep behind Russian lines, armed with nothing heavier than anti-armor launchers, suppressed rifles, and a few demolition charges. Their mission was to harass, sabotage, and sow fear rather than seize ground. One night, a 12-truck Russian fuel convoy was ambushed near Novovolinsk. In under 90 seconds, 3 trucks were aflame, and the raiders vanished into the tree line. By dawn, another hit crippled a Russian communications node, silencing field radios for hours. These were not conventional battles. They were psychological warfare. Every few hours, explosions erupted, snipers struck unseen, and Russian patrols disappeared without a trace. By day 7, Russian morale collapsed into paranoia. Drone reconnaissance showed platoons refusing to leave trenches at night, others firing blindly into darkness, wasting ammunition on shadows. Ukrainian intelligence estimated that 60% of Russian combat capability in the sector was neutralized, not by direct combat, but through exhaustion, fear, and confusion. What began as a gamble evolved into a masterpiece of asymmetric warfare. Russia's raw firepower suddenly couldn't control the battlefield, and Ukraine was just getting started. By August 13th, 2025, 5:40 a.m., after a week of relentless sabotage, Ukraine's president authorized a full-scale counteroffensive. From makeshift airstrips and camouflaged farms, 300 low-cost suicide drones took flight in swarms. Each under 55 pounds carrying 15-pound warheads, they relied on commercial GPS modules and simple cameras. Designed overnight with 3D-printed frames and off-the-shelf batteries, they embodied a philosophy: overwhelm with numbers, not price. Their target, a Russian base near Samir, holding 2,000 troops, armored vehicles, and massive supply depots. Russian air defenses lit up, firing multi-million-dollar missiles to stop drones costing a fraction. For every UAV destroyed, 5 slipped through. Fuel stores erupted, artillery pits exploded, rows of T-72 tanks melted into twisted wreckage. A crisis flared when 5 drones malfunctioned under Russian jamming and veered toward a Ukrainian artillery battery. If they had struck, 120 soldiers and 6 self-propelled howitzers would have been wiped out. At the last second, Ukraine's ECCM teams regained control, using portable frequency-hopping signals, redirecting the rogue drones into a Russian ammo dump. The fireball lit the morning sky, averting disaster and amplifying the offensive. Phase 2 followed immediately. 30 self-propelled artillery systems opened fire with precision-guided shells, while 20 recon UAVs streamed live targeting data to swarm controllers. Camera-equipped suicide drones hunted Russian troops, diving into open trenches with surgical accuracy. Panic tore through enemy ranks. Survivors fled in every direction, only to be tracked and eliminated. By the end, the Russian base lay in ruins, a smoking graveyard of men and machines. Ukraine had transformed improvised technology into an unstoppable weapon. August 14, 2025, 6:30 a.m. The battlefield near Samir was littered with burned vehicles and rising columns of black smoke. Though drones shattered Russian forces, Ukrainian ground troops were needed to secure the area. The order came: advance and cleanse. 10 modernized T-64 tanks surged forward, guided by UAV coordinates, pounding Russian bunkers with 125 mm cannons. 15 armored trucks carried 550 elite infantry, who dismounted and fanned out through the wreckage. Overhead, quadcopters scanned for heat signatures, exposing Russian holdouts. Resistance was crushed, bunker by bunker, dugout by dugout. 40 Russian soldiers trying to mount a last stand were annihilated when loitering mini-drones turned their warehouse into a fireball. Others tried to escape through nearby woods but were hunted and encircled. By noon, 300 Russian troops surrendered. The Ukrainian flag once more flew above the base. Guerrilla raids had weakened Russia. Drone swarms had shattered them. Ground troops finished the job. It was a victory of discipline and innovation over brute force. At dawn on August 15, 2025, radar screens lit up with 10 incoming Russian jets, Su-34S and Su-35S loaded with precision bombs, racing in at 600 miles per hour to erase Ukraine's hard-won gains. Sirens blared as soldiers ducked into bunkers. But Ukraine had anticipated revenge. Overnight, mobile Patriot PC-3 batteries had been deployed. As the jets crossed into range, 7 Patriot missiles launched, leaving white trails across the morning sky. In under 2 minutes, 7 Russian aircraft were obliterated. The remaining 3 turned back in panic, dropping bombs harmlessly in open fields. The failed strike cost Moscow hundreds of millions and shattered its aura of air superiority. In just 72 hours, Russia went from attacker to humiliated aggressor. Ukraine intercepted missiles, crushed drone swarms, unleashed guerrilla raids, and counterattacked with cheap yet devastating technology. The battle for Western Ukraine proved that victory doesn't always come from massive armies or expensive weapons, but from intelligence, adaptability, and courage. Russia's campaign ended in wreckage, destroyed bases, downed jets, shattered morale. Ukraine wasn't merely surviving anymore. It was redefining modern warfare. Your support matters. Subscribe now to follow frontline stories the world must see.